Projects on the tray. Anything turned in late is an automatic 0. Mr. Liu grumbles as he marks off attendance. He wasn't exactly in the best mood today, neither was you. You got nearly no sleep last night. Your head kept filling with thoughts of Jungkook last night and the kiss he's touched the little distance between you both. You was meant to forget about it all. You didn't understand. It would be so hard to keep your mind off of it. Whatever it was that you felt last night, it was different. You're not sure what you were feeling really. Sighing, you look down at your sad excuse of a project as you get up from your seat. Even though you only had one question done on there, it was better than nothing. You reach out your hand to place the paper in the tray until Leah pushed you hard ahead. She looked at you up and down with a nasty look before walking back to her seat. What was her problem? Thankfully, Jungkook hadn't been in class yet. He usually come in late. By late, I mean coming in when there's only 25 minutes left for the class. You knew he will arrive in class late by Mr. Liu's disappointed look towards the door and a giggle from Leah. Your hands were itching to just grab your backpack and run away from this university, but you kept your cool and just looked down at your desk. I am handing out an assignment that I expect to be done before the class ends as an exit ticket. Mr. Liu grumbles after glaring at Jungkook's late entrance once again. You have given a stack of papers for your row, so you grab one before turning slightly to hand the stack to Jungkook to pass back. You could feel his dark eyes on you, but you ignore it, knowing you would probably regret it if you looked up at him. He takes the paper slightly brushing past your fingers. The action only causes shivers to run down your arms and any rational thoughts in your head to melt away. You're not sure how he did it, but whatever happened last night, you wanted more of it. You couldn't exactly explain why or what you were thinking, but you couldn't get him out of your head. This was a problem that needed to be taken care of quickly before it got out of hand. When you turn back towards your desk, you try calming your heart as you hold tightly onto the pencil in your hand. How was you going to get through university? Lunch was your favorite part of the day. You had your own spot in the corner where no one else sat. It was a good distance away from the table Jungwoo sat at, and you usually never run into Jungkook. You hadn't even bothered trying to sit with anyone else. Everyone at the university gave you a dirty look anytime you came anywhere near them. Social status here was more important than anything, and apparently, if any of the wealthy students were seen talking to some nobody like you, and they instantly become a joke. It's one of the reasons why you tried staying away from Jungwoo here. He was friends with cheerleaders and other football players. You knew better than to want to associate with them. You knew they all hated you. It's not like any of them hid it. Sighing, you sit down at the table pushed into the back corner with your lunch. Your hands reach the AirPods Jungwoo had gifted you in your ears. It was your new routine. The AirPods helped you to ignore whatever was going on around you. It brought you peace somehow. The music in your ears sounded like it would be drowned out when you catch someone sitting next to you through your peripheral vision. You turn your head towards the person trying not to choke on your food when the person turns out to be Jungkook. What are you doing here? You ask, your eyes wide as you look around the cafeteria. All the students looked at the table confused. You were almost as confused as them. Eating, he said, looking over at you for the slightest bit before going back to his sandwich. You only watch as he eats like he hasn't just shocked the entire university. You purse your lips together, looking away from all the judgmental stares as you take out the AirPods. People are looking. I don't think you should sit here. you muttered, wanting to shrivel up into a ball. Since when did your opinion matter to me? He said, looking over at you with no sort of emotion covering his face. You look at him with your lips parted in shock and your eyebrows furrowed. I'm sorry, what? You said, avoiding looking anywhere near his lips. Did he not care that people would talk bad about him for sitting with you? Everyone was staring, but his eyes were still on you. You were hella confused. You heard me, Buttercup, he utters as he looked at you. It's silent for a moment before you move your head away from him and face your lunch. You felt your face fill with heat, oddly liking the new nickname he gives you just now. Can't you sit somewhere else? You whispered under your breath, playing with your fingers on your lap. How did you afford that? Jungkook suddenly points out, his eyes on your AirPods that sat on top of the table. You clear your throat, shrugging your shoulders. Jungwoo gave them to me as a gift. You said, a small smile reaching your lips when remembering your hangout. You liked hanging out with Jungwoo. He always found a way to make you feel comfortable. How kind of him. Jungkook said lowly. You turned towards him, watching as his jaw clenched before biting into an apple. He had a different look in his eyes now. You're not exactly sure what it was, but it was definitely not joy. You watched him curiously. You were shocked he hadn't brought up the case or anything about last night. Is there a reason why you're here? You blurt out, wanting to leave him desperately when you catch sight of Jungwoo walking towards the area of the table. Jungwoo furrows his eyebrow as he looked over at your nervous figure before following his eyes towards where you had been looking at, towards Jungwoo, who had locked eyes with you before moving his gaze towards Jungkook, who sat next to you. Let's make a bet, he suddenly said, looking over at you as Jungkook got closer to the table. You look over at Jungkook, confused at the sudden suggestion. What? You asked, dumbfounded. You will give me anything I want if Jungkook comes here acting jealous. Jungkook said, watching you carefully. What do I get in return? You asked, feeling your heart rate speed up at the way he was looking at you, the same way he looked at you last night before kissing you. Whatever you want from me, Buttercup, he said, a small smirk making its way onto his face. Promise? You ask, hesitant on if he will actually go through with it. I don't break a promise, Angel. Jungkook uttered, his eyes flickering down to your lips before moving back up to your eyes. Why did you feel like your body was on fire? Why was he looking at you like that? Wyan, Jungwoo's voice suddenly reaches your ears and you snap your gaze away from Jungkook as you look up. Jungwoo, yeah, you say, clearing your throat as you move a little further away from Jungkook, who had just gone back to eating his food. Do you two usually eat lunch together? Jungwoo asked, looking between you both curiously. Did this count as jealousy? Did you lose the bet? No, he's just here for some reason. You stumble out, biting your lip nervously as you avoid any eye contact with Jungkook. Jungwoo furrows his eyebrows at Jungkook, an annoyed look covering his face as he stands there with his hands in his pockets. It seems like the entire cafeteria had their eyes on you three now. Jungkook suddenly gets up, pulling his backpack over his shoulder easily. He stands up to Jungwoo's slightly shorter height, his eyes darker now as he looks down at Jungwoo. You sit there confused when Jungkook suddenly mumbles something into Jungwoo's ear, causing his jaw to clench in anger. Before you know it, Jungwoo has Jungkook's collar balled up into his fist and there was a crowd of students surrounding them. Jungkook didn't look fazed at all. He only held a smirk on his face as Jungwoo stood there fuming with anger. Is this a fucking game to you? Jungwoo spits his eyes dark as he looked at Jungkook. There were multiple cameras out now filming whatever was going on. All you knew was that you didn't want anything to do with this anymore. So you slowly stand up from your seat with your backpack and start walking away. That is until someone grabs your backpack and drags you backwards into a hard chest. You gasp at the action, your eyes wide when you realize Jungkook had dragged you here in front of all these people. Buttercup, would you like to tell your little boyfriend about last night? Jungkook said deeply in his eyes filled with amusement as he looks down at you. You freeze on your spot looking at Jungwoo who only watched you with a confused look on his face. The sound of the students around you only gets louder as they whisper to each other and you watch Jungwoo only grows more impatient. Let me go, you whisper, trying to choke back tears as you attempt to get out of Jungkook's hold on your backpack. His jaw clenched before he let go of you, showing you towards Jungwoo. You stumble in your step, freezing right in front of Jungwoo as you look up at him. Jungwoo watched you, his head tilted in confusion until the words leave Jungkook's mouth with no hesitation. He's cold, and you feel the pain in your throat from trying to hold back tears suddenly gives in as they fall down your face. The sound of everyone around you suddenly dies out as Jungwoo looks at you with realization and sadness filling his eyes. No, you can't do this anymore. You feel your fist ball up at your sides, your tears wet on your face as you turn around and march towards Jungkook, who watched you with amusement. You're not sure what got into you. Maybe it was Leah's happy smile from seeing you get humiliated or Jungkook completely betraying you, but you knew one thing. You wouldn't let anyone step over you again, especially not Jungkook. Your hand raised up as you slapped Jungkook on the face hard. His head slightly moves to the side at the force and shocked noises come from every side of you as you look up at him with a glare and tears in your eyes. I hate you, just stay away from me. You spit, watching as Jungkook looked down at you shocked before you push past him and walk through the crowd to get away from there. Not only did the entire university hate you even more now, but Jungwoo probably wanted nothing to do with you anymore. You lock yourself in a bathroom stall sitting on the toilet as you bring your knees up to your chest and bury your head in your arms. Alone. Again. You heard each teardrop fall from your eyes, each heavy breath you took from crying too much, your hair sticking to your face and the racing in your heart from the anger you had pent up. You really were a fool for thinking about that case, for believing Jungkook could be a good person. You are a fool. You sat in the bathroom stall for hours. You waited until the last bell rang 10 minutes past the bell, so by the time you walked out, the university would be nearly empty. The click of your stall door opened and you walk out looking at your swollen face in the mirror. You wipe away any tears left on your face before heading towards the door and pushing it open. You didn't have any energy to care about how you look anymore. You feel your stomach drop when you realizing Jungwoo had been standing next to the door the entire time with his hands in his pockets, leaning against the wall. You started walking quickly, trying to pretend you didn't see him. You just wanted to be alone. Ryan, can we talk? He suddenly asked, grabbing your arm from behind. You stopped in your tracks, looking down at your shoes. How could you even speak to him anymore? You felt like an idiot. Instead of saying anything, you slowly nod your head, looking up at Jungwoo, who was looking at you with a worried look instead of a disgusted one. It's silent for a moment until he suddenly pulls you into a hug, his chin on top of your head as his arms wrapped around you. Don't listen what Jungkook said. I don't know why he's acting so pissed with me around you. But whatever he said is out of pure anger. Jungwoo mumbled under his breath. How could someone be so kind? How could he still hug you after all that? How about we go on a drive to get your mind fresh from all these things? He suddenly said, pulling away from the hug with a smile on his face as he looks down at you. I have work in the house, you muttered, hoping Mrs. Carmen wouldn't question your messy looking face. We will take the scenic route. Jungwoo shrugged, grabbing your hand. You looked down at your hands clasped together before looking back up at Jungwoo, who only held a small smile as you both walked out of the university. Your red face from crying luckily helped you cover the tint of red plastering your cheeks from the action. Jungwoo didn't let go of your hand even in the car. He had one hand on the steering wheel and the other one clasped in yours as he pointed out every flower he thought you would think looked pretty. Whatever he was doing was helping because the entire car ride your mind was completely off of what happened at university. The terrifying thing about time is that it always comes back to haunt you. You really can't escape it as hard as you try. Tomorrow was the day you have to meet with Andrew to give him whatever amount of money your check held. The days felt like they were passing by quicker when you didn't want them to. You knew any hope you still had in you was fading away at this point. The funny thing is, you knew you also probably had no chance of making it out alive. For some reason, you didn't mind. It's like your body just accepted. You knew you were screwed either way. If Andrew doesn't kill you, Ivan is right behind him.